Hello, welcome to Big Bang Radio Spotlights. This is a show where we talk to independent artists from all around the world all about their music and their process for making it. I'm your host, Isaac Anderson, and today I get to sit down with the band Red Rum Club. Without any further ado, here's the interview. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. I want to start kind of at the beginning of your personal music journey, and the question I want to ask you is, what is your earliest musical memory?
Musical memory? That's a tough one. That, like, I mean, a lot of it was listening to music in the car, like on like road trips and stuff with me mum and dad. So I got quite a lot of influence from like Motown stuff, 70s stuff as well. When it comes to actually like being a part of music, it's probably when I was in like school orchestras and stuff like that. That was great, like early development for me. Just seeing musicians who are above me. Like I was totally out of my depth when I first came in, but school being schools, they obviously, you know, help you out and they let you just break yourself in nice and easily. So by the time I left school, I was the top of the orchestra. So it was pretty cool, like, to have that kind of progression. That's probably my earliest moments with music.
Well, it sounds like you grew up with sort of a love and appreciation for music, but how exactly did you get started playing music?
It actually started off just purely coincidental. Like, I obviously wanted to be a guitarist, because who doesn't want to be a guitarist, you know what I mean? But I didn't start when I was like 7, which I think was the criteria for some music lessons in school. So they just weren't having it, like they weren't letting me do it. And so I was a bit annoyed about that, because I obviously felt some kind of calling to music. I didn't really realise it at the time. But my sister, who's she's about 13 years older than me, I found her old trumpet and realised she played like when I was about, it's been like 3 years old or something like that. Like, I didn't really remember it. Like, it didn't really twig in my head until I found it up there. And then my dad was just like, oh, well, you know, I'm sure we can try and get you some music lessons on that. The school might be a bit more lenient with more classical instruments. So, and they were. So, like, first lesson was me and these 5 lads sharing my sister's old trumpet, trying to pass it around and stuff and have a go on it. And it just kind of developed from there, really, yeah, through school.
Well, obviously you're part of Red Rum Club and you're the trumpet player for that band, but were you in bands before you were ever in Red Rum Club? I feel like the answer is probably yes, considering your background in trying to play in like school orchestras and stuff.
I wanted to be a bass player once. I got Californication as a kid, and by the way, so Flea was a big influence to me, like when I was a kid. And he played the trumpet as well, coincidentally. I didn't really twig that until a lot later. But so, like, after I got my trumpet and played it for a while, I got a bass for my birthday, and so I was playing bass in a lot of bands until, like, I've been in a few, no notable ones at all, you know, just kind of like coming to age with gigs and stuff like that. You know, played some cool gigs when we were kids. Surprised we got the opportunity to play some of the venues we did. Like, but yeah, and then I fell out of love with trumpet for 3 years, and then I picked it back up in university when there was no more slots left on the bass for some bands. So I joined a reggae band on trumpet, and there was a trombone player who was meant to kind of play with me, like in that group, and he never ended up joining that band. So I was a bit like, oh, this is weird. I've never played like trumpet without like another brass instrument at least or something like that, you know. And so that's kind of how I got my style, with like playing like on my own and stuff, and picking more lead lines than rather than being in the background as a backing session musician, which a lot of them like kind of instruments, they usually just take up, you know, that little bit at the back of the stage by the drummer. 3 of you standing there just, you know, playing little odd stabbing notes. And as comfortable as I was prepared to do that in that band, but I never had the choice. So just kind of realized actually it's quite cool just having a trumpet on its own. And it worked. About a year later, the opportunity with Red Rum Club came up. So yeah, just jumped at that one really, and it's been that ever for the last 5 years.
How exactly did Red Rum Club start? Were you guys friends before this? Did you just meet through the power of music? I don't know. How exactly did that go about?
I do not know. I was not there. I do know. It started out with this band. I think it started out with Mike and Neil, and it just, like, me, Mike, and Si were mates when we were younger, and I went off to college in like a different part, so I kind of grew apart with them. But I was always like flirting with doing something musically with Mike at that young age, you know, because like you could tell that kid had talent, you know, like he's the most talented person I'd met. And our mate Sai as well, he'd been learning bass. And my old drummer from my old band ended up joining them for a bit. And then I think our drummer Neil replaced them. And then Fran and Tom, who were cousins, ended up like meeting up with Mike, and they ended up like having like a practice together. And I think from that point on, when they were about 17, they've just literally been non-stop. Like, well, see, they got serious about 6 years ago, and they had a little hiatus and started writing. And that's when I came into it about them, because they were looking for something a bit different, just to kind of make them stand out from the crowd a bit. And brass section was the idea, but obviously I didn't really want them to have a brass section, otherwise I thought I wasn't going to get in the band. So I you just steered them away from that option, like gradually over the 6 months that was like my trial period. And then since like, I think it's 2016, it was like official that I was in, and it was the full lineup then. And that's when we started doing some quite impressive stuff, if I don't mind saying so myself.
Also, the name Red Rum Club, it's a very catchy name, and it really sticks in your mind. Where did that band name come from?
I do know this one. Yeah, it's from The Shining. We did play on the racehorse in Red Rum. The horse was like a legend, especially around where we live, Aintree, which is like famous for horse racing. And we used that one time to get like a little cover gig in there or something to get some money for the band. We actually did quite well out of it. But it's actually from The Shining, the Red Rum scene. I'm sure like a lot of people in the UK think it's the horse, but I think more Americans will probably think more of The Shining. But yeah, it's because it's got that cinematic feel, and that's what we always had in mind, just to have that big cinematic sound. So I think the lads, obviously before I started, took it literally and started watching all these old cool like films. And that stood out to them, that made the line. And before, I'd club onto there, and it's like a kind of like we made like a hashtag join the club kind of thing. That was kind of our like thing, just kind of get people involved and stuff. So that's kind of how the name came about.
If you could see what I see, we could be high when the morning comes. Up to your altitude, gravity won't stop me getting close to you.
I mean, it's a mix, it's whoever's feeling the most inspired. And I mean, to be honest, if it's like collaborative, I'd be doing a disservice to Tom, our guitar player, because he is the brainchild behind most of the music. I get to write a lot of my parts just because I know the instrument better than them, so I know kind of some tips and tricks on it. But most of this, like particularly the second album, was Tom. He'd bring them to us, and Mike was heavily involved, kind of making it come what we know with all the bass and drums and stuff like that. And Fran involved the lyrics, and by the time we all came together, like once the song had been brought to us all together, we'd all had our say and stuff, and then just took it to the studio and saw what inspired us there. So it's never really finished until the actual end of the recording session, really. I mean, there's a lot we do in the studio as well, because obviously we don't have thousands of pounds worth of recording equipment at home. So like to be able to play around with like some like really nice synths and good samples and stuff for percussion, because when we were doing the first album, we got really into like having percussion samples and stuff, and just having it in the background on a backing track while we play live. And it just seemed to kind of raise, bit of cheating, I know, but it kind of raised the kind of energy levels while we were playing. So we thought, let's have more of that in for album 2. So Tom does the majority of it, but we're starting writing album 3 now, and we're trying to do a bit more of a collaborative thing, just because I think it's a more healthier way of writing as well, just because everyone gets their say then as well. But I mean, it's worked for us so far. Just like it's just whoever's inspired really, and whoever can come up with it. But I've got to credit it to Tom, really.
Hopping onto your location right now, so you guys are based out of Liverpool, UK. Obviously, that's a place that's very entwined with music, specifically the Beatles. How exactly is the local music scene there right now? I know right now COVID's going on, but just kind of looking past COVID, is that area pretty good for music?
Well, it's great, man. Like it's very competitive when we were coming up. I think when it comes to local bands and stuff now, we can be proud to say that we pull a big crowd now, and like we're looking at 2,000 cap venues in our hometown. So we've done quite well in the city itself. But there was a lot of competition, and there's a lot of we talk behind like other bands back and stuff whenever they did well, and we'd be like, why are they getting this and why aren't we? It's quite a fierce rivalry, but still a lot of like support as well at the same time. I think it's healthy to have that kind of rivalry anyway. But you always see the same musicians at gigs and stuff. Like, everyone comes to each other's gigs, whether it's to support or check out what they're doing that they can steal. I mean, like I said, it's quite it is competitive, but it's fun to be competitive, and it means you get some great bands coming out of it as well, and great artists like our friend Zuzu. She's doing great at the moment as well, and she's come from through the Liverpool scene with us. It's quite cool seeing who's lasted the amount of time we have, and like what they're doing now and stuff. It's a very and there's a lot of opportunities in Liverpool as well, especially with that, like our record label, Modern Sky. Their office is in the centre of Liverpool, and it's quite weird. Like, obviously all the labels are in London, but having that hub so close to home, and like having a proper like window into the industry so close to home, that's helped a lot as well. Just the fact that we can have the personal contact of the city with the professional side of the industry as well. So yeah, it's a good place for music. And obviously there's loads of pub music and stuff, like a lot of covers, and like there's loads of men with the guitars and women with the guitars just singing around bars and stuff. Like, so it's always got like, you can always hear music in Liverpool, but when it comes to like the actual like the bands and stuff, it's very strong, I'd say. Like, it's something I've noticed, and especially with the festival Sound City that we have every year, there's a good showcase of that as well.
Heard that. Well, like I said before, right now COVID's kind of wiped 2020 off the map essentially, but 2019 was a very, very massive year for you guys, especially for the playing shows. It looks like you played all over the place. You played a lot of shows, and you were on BBC quite a lot too. What is one of your most memorable shows?
I can tell you it right now. Like, that's how memorable it is. Like, I know exactly the one. For me, it was we have this festival put on by SJM in Manchester called Neighbourhood, and it's like a satellite festival, kind of like, I guess, South by Southwest. It's like, different venues and stuff all coming together in the city, and you get a ticket to go to any show you want in that city. And ours was in this place called the Pink Room, which was in Yes, which is like a tiny 300 cap like room. But I mean, they're the best rooms in my opinion, because as long as the sound's good in there, like, I mean, you can always get a good atmosphere. And we played another gig that morning in Newcastle, and so we had to drive 3 hours to this Manchester show, which is a lot when you live in the UK. So yeah, 3 hours isn't great, but like, we got there and we were like, we were still hyped and still sober, luckily, because you can get a bit carried away when you're having these long days with a couple of gigs. But we got there, and Inhaler just played, and the room was full, and we were just like, yeah, this is going to be good. And there's loads of people backstage. Like, you could just feel the excitement before you got on. And then when we got there and just saw everyone, like, and it was just absolute, like, you couldn't fit any other people in there. Like, it was just, they were turning people away at the door and stuff. And to walk out and have that there, and it seemed that they were there for us as well. Like, they were all cheering when we got on. So it was it was a good Red Rum Club fan, which is good Red Rum Club fans, which we always appreciate in festivals, because you never know what kind of crowd you're going to get. And like, just as soon as we started playing, it just everyone was just going absolutely nuts, like just jumping about and stuff. And like I just remember laughing. I was just laughing the whole gig, because it was like when you're just that happy, you're just laughing because you're just seeing it all unfold. And I remember just before our last song, Would You Rather Be Lonely, it was absolute chaos, man. Like, I think even a little fight nearly broke out at one point, and that never happens at our gigs. Like, it's very friendly atmosphere, so you could tell it was a bit tense how close everyone was to each other. And just at the end, about it must have been like 8 or 10 or something security just walked through the middle of the crowd. And I was just like, where the hell have you guys been? You know what I mean? Like, I'd seen people bashing up against the barriers and stuff like that. And they all walked in like dead entitled, like, oh yeah, now we're going to do the job. And it's like, too late, you know what I mean? It's the last song now. You could have been here organising it before, but it just added to the comedy of it to me. So it was a very memorable show, and a not so memorable night after a few whiskeys after that, I can tell you.
Heard that. Well, I think it's time we start talking about your new album, which is The Hollow of Humdrum, which is out on streaming right now, and it's full of a lot of really, really cool songs, just like we described before. What was the process of recording that like?
I mean, we're quite personally limited when it comes to studio time and stuff. So like, we can't mess around in the studio. So like, we weren't that prepared when we came in. Like, we got there in the end, but like, I think we got in there with probably 8 songs that were definites and 2 that were like, it's what we've got, and we've got to deliver this album. And obviously we had Ballerino, Eleanor, and Elevation, which are the 3 singles and stuff like that we wanted to push. So we were happy. We're like, well, we're gonna have the singles there. We'd rather not have filler in the album. Like, we're quite like that. We'd like every song to potentially be a single. Like, you know, we don't like filler in our album. Like, it's just all very straight to the point when we come in. And like I said, we've been writing. Tom had written the majority of this album. I brought it to us, and obviously we produced and got what our ideas for the arrangements and stuff. But when we actually got to the studio, like I said, we didn't have that much time. We had 2 weeks in the studio to get these 10 songs done, and 2 of them just weren't happening at all. And like, there was just one day where we were just like we just had to admit defeat on this song. And like, a few of the lads weren't that happy about it, but it just wasn't going anywhere. And it was just like, the next day we just came in and we were like, what do we do? And I came in a bit late, like kind of dreading it, because I was like, this isn't ideal, not having like this finished, and we only got 4 days left in the studio. And I came in and they were just like, hey Joe, and they all smiled on their face, and I was like, oh, what's going on? And they were like, yeah, we got another song, don't worry. I was like, oh, it's right. And they're like, yeah, this is the brass part, and it was Kill as a Gun. And I was just like, you absolute, I'm not going to swear, but I'd use a swear word there to describe him at that point. But if you've heard Girl as a Gun, you know that the trumpet part's a bit mad. And so it's, yeah, I came in and I was like, we got a new song, is right. And then heard the part, and I was like, you're kidding me. So that took me a good hour to get that down and stuff, get that all practiced. But yeah, and then Favourite Record was the last song that we had the album, and I was pretty happy with it, but there was one song that a few of the lads weren't that happy with, and we came up with the idea of doing a bit more of a stripped back song, just to kind of with Matador, there was a bit of regret, the fact that it was all very like in your face and very like, you know, fast tempo and stuff. And so we had Brando in this one, and we thought that might compensate a little bit for that, but I think the feeling was, let's have a more mature sounding album and a bit more complete. And so we put Favourite Record in there, which turned out really nice, actually. We ended up writing that in about a week and bringing that into the studio just for a quick night session. And that just completed the album for us, really. So it was a bit of a rush, and it was a bit, it could have gone wrong, but it didn't. And I think that's kind of like our way a bit, you know, you just have to wing it sometimes, and it'll all be okay. So yeah, I'm very happy with it, though. I'm very proud of that album.
The name Hollow of Humdrum, what exactly does that album name mean to you? Yeah,
so like, again, that was a weird one with the band. It wasn't exactly, we weren't unanimous on it until because we kept calling it Hollow of Humdrum, and like for some reason it wasn't vibing with me until someone said the Hollow of Humdrum, and I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, just that one word made a difference. But it's basically it's kind of the album's themed around it. You know, it's kind of like the Hollow of Humdrum is just, you know, the mundanities of life, really, like, you know, just everyday boring life. And I guess a lot of the songs and like the stories in the songs are like escapism from that, and just kind of how you pave your own individual way, even with, you know, sticking to the 9 to 5 kind of life and stuff like that, and, you know, how to make the best of them moments, really. So it's kind of like the full album title really should be Escape from the Hollow of Humdrum, because that's kind of like what the songs are about, your escapism and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of, it kind of hit home with me more after we recorded it, and I listened to the lyrics a lot more because, I mean, I'm not the lyricist in the band. I'm not going to pretend that. I think I've written maybe 3 lines or something in the 2 albums of lyrics, you know what I mean? But I'm just a music guy myself. But like when I actually listen to the lyrics like properly, like, you know, having the full playbacks and stuff afterwards, it kind of hit home. Like a lot of them felt very personal to me, the songs already, and like, you know, I didn't write them, so I knew it was going to have quite a nice, like, people like kind of relating to the album and stuff. And yeah, that's basically the theme, really. It's just, you know, what we all do and how we all cope with, you know, keeping our lives exciting and stuff like that, really.
Heard that. Well, the album's awesome. It's out on streaming platforms right now, and it's also on a lot of college radio stations, including 89.1 Big Bang Radio. So, Joe, what's next for Red Rum Club? I know COVID's kind of keeping the live shows not a thing right now, but do you guys have anything planned as far as like maybe live streams or anything for your fans on social media?
Yeah, I mean, no comment on the tour, like, you know, just see what happens, really. I'm not putting too many eggs in one basket for that one. But yeah, the live stream we got from the Palm House, as I said to you before the interview, just in we've got it in this park in Liverpool, Sefton Park, this gorgeous, like, massive glass dome, like which people can visit, and it's like full of like trees and tropical plants and stuff. And basically, we thought it'd be a great location to like kind of kit it out for a gig while it wasn't, you know, obviously wasn't getting used much and stuff during after lockdown, but during the kind of social distancing periods before the second lockdown. And we decided to get in there, get like a proper lighting rig, getting a proper film crew with Zope, who's helped us out loads over lockdown, and our engineer who recorded the album, Chris. And we just got it looking like just again quite cinematic, and just all the colours in there as well with the lights and the plants and stuff. It's quite a visual spectacle, that, if I say so myself. And so that was a nice focus we had, and Scott's Menswear helped us out with that as well, with all the finances for it, which was great. You know, we've still got these people who look after us, like, even though we're not doing much live at the moment for them and stuff, you know, they're still there. It's nice to know that. And so I think once that's out the way, get Christmas out the way as well. And then I think at the moment we're just thinking, we're back in writing now, and just thinking, right, well, there's not much pressure on us to do anything else at the moment. There's no gigs and stuff, so let's try and write another great album, and, you know, hopefully by the time we're all out, maybe think about releasing it as well, and just, you know, double whammy then when we go in live with like two sets of new songs. Like, you know, it should be quite exciting. So, you know, it's just it's a waiting game, but you just got to make sure that you're making the most of that waiting time and not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, I think. So that's the plan.
Very nice. Well, if people want to keep up with all the stuff that's happening with Red Rum Club, how can they find you on social media?
Well, find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all that. And yeah, just enjoy what we like doing and goofing around and stuff, really. It's been, that was very important during lockdown as well, the interaction with people on social media. It made you realize that, you know, people still cared and stuff. And that was always our fear, the fact that not having anyone there, like, watching our gigs would kind of make us like stagnate a little bit. But it you know, it seems to have done the opposite in any way, especially with Eleanor. Like, when that came out, it was just getting so much love over socials and radio and stuff. So yeah, keep an eye out for us on it, and hopefully give us a little follow if you feel like it. You know, we'd love it.
Wonderful. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. Before we go, I wanted to ask you one more question. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a Big Bang Radio spotlight before, but I'm a musician, but I also love film. And I believe those two mediums are not that many worlds away from each other, and I feel like many musicians have a soft spot for film. So, Joe, before we go, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is an easy one, man, and it's Toy Story all the way. I will never, ever find a film better than Toy Story. That is my childhood, my adulthood. I still watch that film and laugh at every joke, you know what I mean? So, may not be the most highbrow, but it's my favorite, and I'm never letting go of that.
Thanks to Red Rum Club for sitting down with us and talking all about their music. If you guys want to see more interviews just like this, you can go to facebook.com/Studio67NCC, youtube.com/NashComCollege, or you can find us on Instagram @Studio67NCC. Thank you all for watching. I'm Isaac Anderson, and until next time, stay lovely.